Hello and welcome back, or welcome in if you're new. My name is Sarah and this is my booktube channel. I just started this very recently, so this is like my third video, and so far I'm really enjoying being on booktube. I've had some amazing welcoming comments from other booktubers, which I've been really grateful for, and I've now reached over 100 subscribers, so thank you so much if you followed me and you're watching this. I can't tell you like how grateful I am. Even if I have just one person watching it, I'm literally so grateful for every single follower or subscriber, should I say, and viewer. It means the world to me. This is like a brand new venture for me, and I was kind of nervous to start it, but I've been really enjoying the recording process, editing and whatnot. I've got a new microphone now because the one that I was using, the sound was just all over the place. You might, if you watched all the way through to the end of my last video, the sound just went so funky and it was getting on my nerves. And then I tried to make a TikTok video and the sound was just horrible. So with the help from my friend, I've invested in a new microphone, which I'm really pleased about. A worthwhile investment, I believe. But yeah, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about my main reading goal for this year, and it's not a book count. Although my book count is 40, I'm hoping to get to 40 books this year. But aside from that, my other book goal, which I actually started midway through 2024, and I want to finish this year, and that is reading all the Brandon Sanderson novels in the Cosmere universe. So there's so many books and they're huge. They're like some of them are a normal size, some of them are like this, but you know what? I like a big chunky book, me. And so it's just a worthwhile journey that I'm going on. So what I did was I went on TikTok because it is quite overwhelming trying to read an entire universe of books, because you're always like, what order should I read them in? I don't know. And it's a bit like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I had like constant internal debates because I got into that quite late, and I was doing all sorts of research on the Marvel films about which order I should watch them in. And yeah, that was a lot. And it's a bit similar with this, in my opinion, with the Cosmere. And if you go on YouTube and you type in the search bar, Cosmere reading order Brandon Sanderson, there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of videos of people sharing their own opinions on what reading order that you should take. And yeah, it's crazy. It's a little bit overwhelming, and really, I guess you could really, if you don't want to do all that, is just read the release book order. But I'm not here to say which order you should read them in, because I'm midway through that journey myself. But what I am going to do is talk a little bit about the books and what I've read so far and what books are next on my list to come. So this one's for the fantasy lovers and the Brandon Sanderson lovers, because I am on a journey. Like I was saying, I went on TikTok and I was doing my research about the order I should read the books in, and like on TikTok, there's so many ways you can read them and what order you can read them. And I just settled on one, and I can't for the life of me remember who the creator was. So what I did do for my own sanity was write all the books down and put them in my notes app. Excuse my phone screen, it's really cracked. And so yeah, I put them in the notes app, and I'm ticking them off one by one as I finish them. So first up on the list, we have the Mistborn trilogy. I absolutely adored these. I really adored this trilogy. So after I finished reading the Mistborn trilogy Saga 1, because there's a Saga 2 later to come, I read a couple of short stories relating to the Mistborn saga with one of the main characters called Kelsier. I'm going to say Kelsier. And yeah, they were really good, and they are a must read if you are reading those trilogies. What I also found was that with the Mistborn trilogy, last year I found that a lot of people started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses series, but they were looking for something else to read after that. It was like the first taste of fantasy. The Mistborn trilogy has been quite a transition for people, so a lot of people started reading the Mistborn trilogy last year as well, like me, even though it's been out for years and years and years. But yeah, if you are reading them, don't forget that there are 2 extra short stories that follow up the main trilogy story. They are in this collection of books called Arcanum Unbounded. So I first read the 11th Metal, and then after that I then read A Secret History, and yeah, it gave a totally different context of events that were happening during the trilogy. So I won't put any spoilers in here, but there's a fair bit of closure in there as well, which I really enjoyed. So this Arcanum Unbounded is a collection of short stories which has the 2 follow-up Mistborn trilogy stories in there, and there's quite a few other stories to read, but I won't get to them just yet because they're further down in the reading order on my list. So the next book I ended up reading on my list was Elantris, and this was fantastic. I absolutely adored this. What I love about books like this is that people get thrown into these really horrible situations, but they've still got these sense of morals. They're really like strong-willed, and they fight for the rights of themselves and for everybody else. And it was just absolutely like, it was amazing. But what I will point out is that the female character in this is just feminist icon, really. But yeah, again, I talked about this in my other video, so I won't go too much in depth of it, but I've really enjoyed that. Then I read the follow-up story to that, which was in, again, Arcanum Unbounded, The Hope of Elantris. And then, well, actually, ironically, not ironically, next in the reading order is The Way of Kings, but I actually read this book before I read any of the others. It was how I found Brandon Sanderson, and it was on a Reddit thread. And then after that, I found out there was a whole universe. So I finished reading that, and then I jumped into the Mistborn trilogy. And like I've said this a million times, but The Way of Kings is the best book I read last year. I'm currently rereading or listening to it, shall I say, on Audible. So yeah, I've not had enough. Because I read The Way of Kings months and months and months ago, and it's next in the reading order, and I loved it, I'm now re-listening to it on Audible, and in the meantime I've read a couple of different books that are not on the Cosmere universe. And when I finish the Audible book, I'm going to jump right back into the Cosmere. So this is where my 2025 goal starts, because I've got now this year to finish reading the rest of these books. So let me tell you what these books are and the order that I'm reading them in. So next up on my reading list is Warbreaker. I actually don't know what this one's about yet. For some reason, I just haven't read the blurb, and I'm refusing to read the blurb, and I don't know. I'm really weird that I like to go into these books blind so that I don't have a clue what they're on about. Not that I don't have a clue what they're on about, but I like to be surprised. So I'm going into this completely blind. So next on the list, and part of the Stormlight archives, which is with The Way of Kings, is the Words of Radiance. Now, I've actually already started this book because I started it immediately after I finished The Way of Kings, and I got about 20% into it. But when I found out about Mistborn, I put this down. So this is waiting to be picked up after I finish Warbreaker. I'm not exactly sure the reason why people recommended to read Warbreaker between The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, but I guess I'll find out soon. And after Words of Radiance, I've got Oathbringer, again part of the Stormlight archives. Then I've got Dawnshard, and then I've got Rhythm of War, part of the Stormlight archives. And then there's another Arcanum Unbounded story to read called The Emperor's Soul. And then it'll be on to Mistborn Era number 2. A couple of months ago I went to Daunt Books and I was just coming to the end of the Mistborn trilogy, and I just assumed that the next Mistborn eras would be the next books to read, but apparently not. I ended up buying the Alloy of Law, but then I found out it's all the way down the list, so I've got it ready to read when the time comes. But then after that, it's back to Arcanum Unbounded again for another short story. So then another Mistborn Era 2 book, Shadows of Self, Mistborn Era 2 book again, The Bands of Mourning, and then The Lost Metal, also a Mistborn Era 2 book. Then after that, there's a story called Tress of the Emerald Sea. I don't know what this is about yet, and I'm really excited to see how these books fit into the universe. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, The Sunlit Man, and now finally the most recent book, which is Wind and Truth. Please don't ask me why I've got this book already when I have so many other books to read, but I saw it in Waterstones about 6 weeks ago. I saw it in Waterstones, and it's just, it's so pretty. I love the artwork and the cover. So yeah, I picked it up for when the time comes. I love it. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. So that's the order that I'm reading all of the Cosmere universe books in by Brandon Sanderson. And it's going to be a hell of a journey. And I am absolutely sure that I will finish the Cosmere universe this year. And I know there is many other people as well on their journey into the Cosmere. And this is what I'm so excited for this year, is just to get absolutely lost in these books. They meet already, I'm only like a quarter of the way through, and some of these characters just mean the world to me. They're just absolutely, I don't know, I feel like Brandon Sanderson's really good with getting characters to tug at your heartstrings, and I struggled with that with some other fantasy books like Game of Thrones. Like, I love the Game of Thrones books, but I was never too emotionally invested in them, whereas these books I am. And yeah, I'm just so excited for what the journey is going to bring. I'm going to put the list on the screen of the full order. If you think I should read them another way, if you like them, let me know. Or let me know if you are reading them and what you think, or what order you're reading them in.